Hello, it's been a while since the last video. I've been a little bit flat out. I know I always say that, but it's always true. Since the last video though, we've had a visit from Henry's immaculate amphib beaver. And you've probably seen this machine on a couple of earlier videos, bits and pieces from Tasmania. So while it's here, I thought we'd go through a bit of a similarities and differences video between the amphib float equipped beaver, and that's not a beaver, that's a scout, and the Landplane gear equipped beaver. I think I've said it a few times before that although they're both DHC-2s, there's very few beavers that are exactly the same in the world because they've all had so many different mods on them. So we'll have a look at the differences and a couple of different mods that these two machines have. What you will find is that they have a different prop on them, and that's nothing to do with the fact that it's a float plane or a land plane. It's just whichever prop was originally put on them. So this one is the less common -1E prop. I can't quite remember the start of the part number. It's been a while since I've read it, but I remember that one ends in -1E. And the more common one is the one fitted to this beaver, which is the -4B. Now the -4B prop, which is this one and is apparently a lot more common, which does make it an easier one to get parts for, from what I understand, is it will, if it loses oil pressure, it'll go to a finer pitch. So essentially, if you had an engine failure, which means that you're losing oil pressure from the pump not moving, it's going to go to a fine pitch. And looking side on there, you can actually see how fine that pitch is with it shut down. On the contrary, on this one with the -1E prop, if you lose oil pressure, i.e. the engine stops turning the oil pump, which in turn stops pumping oil, the blades will go to coarse pitch. And you can actually see with it shut down just how much coarser of a pitch it looks whilst it's sitting here. It does make a bit of a difference when you're training on either machine. I like to train the pilot for what sort of machine they're actually flying or what sort of equipment it's got. So if we have a simulated engine failure in one with this prop, I'll leave the prop in fine because that's what's going to happen to it. Whereas if training someone on this machine, then we can consider pulling the prop back towards a coarser pitch, which will give us a little bit less drag. So obviously the biggest difference between the two is the sheer size of the float machine, and that's highlighted even just by the wingtip overlap there. You can see just how different the wing heights are. But let's climb up and have a look at the eye line up here. So as we get to the door, they've all got to have Beaver written on there, because that's the rules. You can see over there, Beaver on that one too. And we have two stairs up into the seat. Despite being higher, I find the float ones are a bit more ergonomic to get into because you're sitting level and you can sort of get into the seat rather than the seat then sliding backwards on you. So just looking out over the hangar from up here, you can see just how big it is. Like, we're looking down on the wheel beaver, which is a big machine in its own right. You can see down there. And looking over, so there's 182 there. You just see the comparison, look how big this thing is. In here, it's an immaculate panel, just like the rest of the aeroplane. What I'll do is I will get my light out to give us a bit better view, and you can see just how incredible this machine is. It's absolutely immaculate, the interior of this aeroplane, as is the rest of the cabin. So sitting a bit more level, of course, than the wheel machine. And we also have the gear selector. We have the emergency pump there. Flaps are exactly the same. And we also have the water rudder handle there, which I can't cycle because I'm holding the torch as well. All the other controls are the same. This one actually has a mod which is an electric primer pump there, which is an aftermarket thing. The other one over there doesn't have it. Another difference that you'll find on some Beavers is that if they're an ex-military one, the throttle and the propeller lever are the other way round. So much like a Baron or something of that nature, which will have the throttle there and the propeller lever over here instead. This one also has the L20, which is the military designation of a beaver, windows in the roof, which give it some skylight and make you need to wear a hat, whereas you can see in the roof of the other one there, it doesn't have them. Another big difference between beavers is wings, or wing mods. So these are both the original DHC-2 wing, so different to the wing that's on the Project Beaver, which is an AWT, the Advanced Wing Technology wing, which is sort of much more like a Cessna wing, really. So these are still the original de Havilland type wings. However, you can see that this one is modded with, I believe it's the Horton STOL kit, and you can see how much of a cuff that leading edge gets. And it also has an extra wing fence there, that white one, whereas the other machine doesn't. Yet it also does have mods to the wings. It still has those wing fences, which this one does as well. And the pair of them are both modified to have, and if I get down without falling off, there we go, to have an increased gross weight of 5,600 pounds max takeoff. And part of that mod is a big diamond D-shaped doubler there, which strengthens the wing. And I couldn't quite get high enough to see it up there, but there's also a big doubler on the top surface of both wings. So both of these machines have that up gross kit. And for a comparison of the height, if we jump into this one, and you can see how the seats slide backwards because obviously it's a tailwheel aeroplane, and makes life, excuse the shaky camera work, makes life a little bit harder work getting in and out. And you can see though that for the most part, panel is all very much the same, but obviously this one doesn't have the gear selector down there, nor the water rudder handle, because it doesn't have water rudders. Everything else so much the same, but yeah, this one doesn't have the skylight there. Another note on the props is this white blade, I reckon, looks absolutely amazing, except that you see every bug on it, you see every spit of oil, and it takes a fair bit of wiping down each day. This grey colour is probably a bit more usual, but as much as this one is absolutely immaculate, if it did have some splatters of bug on it, they'd probably get hidden a little bit easier on the grey, who knows. It is easy to clean the belly of a beaver when it's on floats. This one, as I keep saying, is absolutely immaculate. It's much easier to clean the belly from underneath the floats than it is to get down on this one, where you've got to hop down and lay on your back and crawl around. I've always got an oil drip tray hanging around when I park a Radial. This one hasn't yet got one because it's only just got here, but it doesn't appear to have leaked anything anyway. It's been in there for a couple of days. Usually the oil is going to trickle out the exhaust, and that sort of depends on where the engine stopped on shutdown too, as to whether it does or doesn't. And they all have a little drain hole. Where is it? There it is. And quite often there's a trickle or two of oil comes out of there. It's fairly standard for a beaver. So thanks for watching along. I hope you found that interesting to discuss the differences between that amphib beaver and that Landplane beaver. I will see you in the next video.